行動するのだ。ここに留まっているわけにはいかない。
そのように私の瞳をじっと見つめるのはやめた方がいい。何を見てしまうとも限らないからね。
Yeah, we're pretty much fucked. We can do this, but with no healers whatsoever, and if you take any sort of damage, you get a powerful dot on you. Yeah, we're pretty much fucked. In fact, our Yeah, as you can see, they're all marked. So Ria Leslie might survive. I assume Arlecchino's dead. I wasn't paying attention, but I assume once this comes out, Arlecchino will be dead. Yeah, what a surprise. Arlecchino's dead.
Alcohol, filming the famous secret side of the documentary that did alcohol for 30 years, which is a very long time. He first publicly mentioned this in the 2017 Twitlonger. However, the signs were suddenly available within the documentary.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm on controller. That's why I'm completely fucking stupid. It's like, yeah. Sure, it's the controller. It's the controller's fault that you chose Arlecchino. One of the worst possible choices for this, simply because of the powerful dot if you get hit by any sort of elemental ability, which is, there are a lot of them, and especially the water ball ones are really risky. If you take any damage at all from any of his elemental water balls or electric, you take a powerful dot and you can't heal yourself and no one else can heal you. Yeah, Arlecchino is absolutely terrible to bring into this. Then, the fact that you're standing under him, continuing to attack, when he's clearly hit his threshold. There was the text saying, hey, he's charging up his, whatever, right? That's a little hint to say, hey, by the way, he's immune. Now, technically, he's not exactly immune, right? He'll go into that state, and he can take an additional like 5 to 10% more damage of his HP, maybe 5%, I forget, but like he'll hit a threshold of HP. Once he hits that threshold, then he'll start to charge to imbue himself with this first element, and you can do a little damage to him. His health will go down a little bit, but it'll lock. It won't go down below like 2/3 his health. So I think maybe at 75%, he'll like start to try to imbue himself, and then but you can get him down to 66%, but no further. That's like, okay, you being on controller doesn't make it any smarter. Like, you being on controller doesn't excuse the fact that you continue to stay underneath him while he's doing these humongous AoE attacks all around him, while he's preparing to imbue himself with an element. Like, you just took unnecessary damage from there. And then there's the whole, oh, well, then after he's doing his things, you guys ran in too early and you all took additional unnecessary damage. And it's like, why? Why? Like, even once his last final big AoE goes down, he's still immune. He is still immune until he actually fully imbues himself with the element. In that whole animation, he's completely immune to damage his threat health can't drop below 66%, so there's literally no point in attacking him. Until he finishes imbuing himself with the water and the cutscene ends, then you can start doing damage. So rushing in is completely stupid. There's no point in doing it. There's no benefit in doing it. It's literally useless to do so, and you took damage because of your stupid fucking decision, right? Like, oh, I'm on controller. Like, I'm on controller. I'm walking on my treadmill right now with a controller in my hand to do my dailies. So, and yet I didn't take any, I don't think I took any damage in that fight. So, like, and obviously, there's a huge difference. I was gone here, so I do everything from range. There was no point in me being close anyway. But, it's the thing. It's like, I'm still doing my charge shots, avoiding all damage, and all that shit. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a controller. Okay, so the reason you're on control, so you being a controller is the reason why you did something so stupid? Like, you did a dumb thing. It wasn't a skill issue, it wasn't like a mistake, it wasn't, like, it's one thing if you're like, oh, I'm on controller, that's why I missed the dodge. Yeah, that's fine, sure. Like, I've missed time dodges too, and I get hit, sure. But, like, choosing Arlecchino, stupid decision, especially for this fight. I get you like her, I get you want to play her, but Arlecchino cannot be healed by other players, which means you have to be really skilled to not take damage, so that you can use your burst to heal yourself very occasionally for these small amounts of damage you might take because you're melee, right? But you should be dodging and avoiding everything, and just like, and some of it is just so easy. Just stay the fuck out, right? And this is a level 90 Arlecchino, right? So like, this isn't a low level. This isn't a low level thing. This isn't a like, this is like, when you first unlock it, sure, fine. You don't know how to play the game, fine. But like, this is a weekly boss, and you're level 90, so you had to have done this boss, presumably. Like, obviously, technically, you don't. You could have done it once to unlock a quest, and maybe you just don't have any of the characters that freeze. Okay. So yeah, like, it's just dumb. So no, shit. Don't want to be on you. I still need that bond of life. So yeah, like, it's just kind of annoying. It's like, if you suck, you suck. Like, just say you suck. Like, that's fine. Like, I was already criticizing the dude. Maybe in my head, I forget if I was ranting out before that. Like, I was already criticizing the dude for being Arlecchino. Because it's like, there are some fights where it's okay. Some fights where it's fine, right? But, like, being Arlecchino in co-op is bad. It's a bad choice. there's pretty much no fight where it's like, oh, this is a good idea, you did that, right? There's like pretty much no instance where I'm just like, oh, cool, Arlecchino's a good choice in here. Like, just simply because it's a tough thing to do, right? Like, you can't heal yourself, and you're stuck on the field in co-op, right? Like, as one of the 4 people, you will always be on the field. It's not like this Arlecchino team, right? Sure, Arlecchino's the main DPS, so she's going to be on the field most of the time. But, like, I sort of have to start with Toma, do his skill, do his burst. Xingqiu, skill and burst. Yulain, skill and burst, right? Like, that takes time for all of that. Time Arlecchino's not on the field. Time which these 3 of them could be taking damage from enemy abilities. And Arlecchino's not taking damage. So essentially, they're going to be taking hits that Arlecchino would otherwise be taking because she's just not on the field at that time when the hits are going out. And so it's just like, yeah, like... And, you know, and you have energy batteries, so all of them will be getting energy for her, so maybe keep her burst up consistently. Whereas if you're in a co-op team, I mean, everyone's doing their own thing, so sure. But, like, will they be generating enough energy for Arlecchino? You don't really know, you know, ahead of time. So, because, like, maybe you gave your Xingqiu a Favonius, and you're relying on him getting extra energy particles from the Favonius' skill. Same for Yelaine. Maybe she has a Favonius Warbow in your Arlecchino party. And so you're relying on these 2 to be generating extra energy particles because they're getting crits. Hell, you can even have Toma. You can give them all Favonius stuff, so you just have all shitloads of energy, so you never have to worry about energy. So it's just like, yeah. Like, being in co-op, Arlecchino is a very bad pick. She does shoot shitloads of damage. She does a lot of damage. But she has a glass cannon, right? Because she can't be healed by other people, so you have to be really skilled to avoid taking damage as much as possible. You have to try to avoid taking damage as much as humanly possible. And yeah, sure, you're going to make mistakes. Everyone does. That's fine. But, like, the fact that, like, it's just bad for co-op. Like, you might think that it's okay, and sure, like, she does damage. It's like, sure, if you have a bunch of good people who don't suck, yeah, that's fine. Like, we can carry her. She was able to, you know, do damage in the first 2 phases. So, okay. But still, it's like kind of thing where it's like, dude, if you can't, like, it's just a bad choice. It's just a bad choice. Because it requires a certain level of skill, which you may or may not have. There's no... And it's really just the skill, right? It's just... The big reason why she, you know, quote-unquote, sucks in these co-op things is simply because her survivability is really bad because she can't be healed, right? She can be shielded, but, like, were we in a shielded party? No. So it's like, yeah, we can't really necessarily rely on a shield. If we were shielded, that would have been fine. And, like, that would have been fine. Like, if they saw, oh, okay, we have a shielder, fine, I'll be Arlecchino, that's cool. It's like, okay, that's taking into, like, no, we had literally no healers. We're all DPS. Although technically Nuvalet does heal with his little water ball, so, but, like, you don't get healed by that, so it's like it doesn't. So survivability at Arlecchino's is just really low because you're on the field 100% of the time, and you can't be healed by your party members. So you have to be the one to stop yourself from dying. You know? Yeah. So yeah. Generally, I don't like it. It's just, and then especially in that one, like the reason why it's just so especially dangerous in that one is because, I mean, he's pretty easy to dodge for the most part. But the problem is just his elemental attacks, especially the water ball thing. When those water balls are just floating around, it's really easy to not be paying attention and get clipped by one, especially in the beginning when they're first spawning. Because sometimes they just spawn directly on top of you, and you're just like, fuck. Now I've gotten hit by them. And now, because I got hit by it, I'm screwed. because I'm going to be constantly draining health, and Arlecchino just doesn't have much survivability. Like, she can do her burst. I don't think her burst cleanses either. So, like, that's the other issue. Is like, yeah, she can't. It's not like she can cleanse that. So. So she can take. Oh fuck! Wrong button. Yeah, whatever. Oh, I fucking missed. Oh, there we go. Anyway. So yeah, like, generally when I see an Arlecchino in a co-op team, I'm just like, ugh. Like, because it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, are they going to be an Arlecchino that is skilled? Or are they going to be one that's not skilled and dies immediately? Because that's basically what you get. You either get an Arlecchino that survives to the end, or an Arlecchino that dies almost immediately. And they did get past the first two phases, so that's good. But it's only because the elemental attacks hadn't dropped by then. And the fact that they were almost dead at the end of the first phase anyway, it was like, oh, yeah, that's not good. So, yeah. It'd be nicer if people were a little more, like, paid attention a little bit better to, I mean, it's not even just that. It's like party comps, too. Party comps is helpful. There's definitely been times where you're just like, you get these people who are just so selfish, just want to play the character they want to play, and they don't give a shit about anything else, and you're just like, come on, dude, like, there's elemental party comps, like, could you just, like, be a team player and choose someone who can actually, like, help the team? Because, like, there's a one time, I think this week, where it was like, I was Ganyu, there was a Shenhe, and then someone else, I think, was like a Furina, or like, so it was a water one or something like that. So it's essentially a freeze team, basically. And the guy chose, Al Haytham. And you're like, Al Haytham, like, Dendro has literally no reaction with, like, at all? Okay. Has, like, no reaction with cryo at all. We have 2 cryo people. So why the hell would you pick this person? It's like, he just has no synergy, and we're in a co-op thing. So come on, dude, like, I get you like him, and like, sure, but like, didn't just play him whenever you want, when it matches up with what your party members want to do, right? Or communicate. Say, hey, I want to play Al Haytham. You know, do you think we could try, Hyper Bloom team, or do you think we could try an aggregate team? You know. But no, it's just like, no. Oh, okay, you picked a bunch of party members that don't synergize with me at all. Cool, I'll just do it anyway. And I get it, right? Like, co-op is not difficult, so it's like, it's whatever. But it's still, it's like, come on, dude, like you don't have to be a dick about these things. See, is everything unlocked now? Okay, so this unlocks tomorrow, so I guess I'll just do all of it tomorrow, maybe. Cool, so I'll just focus on clubbing. Here we go. So yeah, like, that's just my big complaint. So yeah, when you get these people who just, like, please don't be characters that require a lot of skill if you are not really good at them. Hell, even if you are really good at them, just don't be that character. Because like just keep it for your solo experiences. Because it's like, even if you're good, even if you're a skilled players still fuck up, right? Like, no one, like no matter how skilled you are, you're not gonna go into Elden Ring and you have no deaths, right? Like, no matter how skilled you are, you are just not gonna have that. So it's just like, yeah. So if you can't do something like that, then, and of course, like, obviously Elden Ring is far more difficult. But it's the kind of thing where it's like, even if you're super skilled, mistakes happen, right? So why don't you just pick a character where a mistake isn't gonna fuck over you, and by extension, everyone in your party? Shit, where was I? I think it was around here. Yeah, it's around here. Trying to get 6 of all of these things. Simply because if I ever need anything. 6. If I ever need to create one of those like things where you can one of those sets where you invite your party members for primos. I haven't actually done them in a while. They've been producing more and more of them, but I haven't actually gone through and completed any. So I probably should. But it's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, it's like when you're missing something, you're just like, I don't want to. I'll put it in the forge, and then you think, well, I might as well just wait and do them all when I have like all the stuff. And of course, they keep introducing new like Fontainian stuff, so it's like I just don't have enough of that. But either way, okay, now Chlorine's quest again. Where was it? It was on the beach. Was it on the beach over here or on the beach over here? I think it was the beach here. Oh, way over here. Whoops. I got the wrong beach entirely. Hello, how's it going? Just off to go and finish. Oh, sure. What are you looking for? Is this like a character build you're looking into? Ah, I see. 2 years. Well, let's see. Guess if it's been 2 years. Ah. I assume it's probably because does it give you like some sort of error saying, "Oh, this NPC's in use for some other thing"? I think they've actually done some improvements on that. Um, so I think for these, like the story quests and stuff, if you press, well, I mean, for me, it's up on the D-pad because you can see that enable focused experience mode to avoid conflicts with other quests. Blah blah blah. So basically, I think what you can do is whatever the story quest is try to enable focused experience mode, and that might unassign some quests. So it might so you might have had a quest already active that was like, oh, I'm going to talk to this character, and so maybe by enabling that, they just added that because I think obviously people have had that issue. Like I've seen people where they're just like, oh look, I have this quest, and then like it like lists like 5 NPCs that are all active in other quests because like they were just accepting all sorts of quests, and then finally the story came in. It's like, whoops, you haven't actually completed these quests, and so the old way was you actually had to go through, finish all your side quests, clear them out, and then you could finally do this. Now I haven't actually tried it. I don't know if it will undo. Like, I don't know if it will, let's see if I enable. So, yes, I'm not really sure what that did. Because, like, I've done all my quests, so it's like, yeah, so I'm kind of curious if there was a quest that... I'm curious if it would have unaccepted a quest that might have conflicted or reset that quest, perhaps. So, yeah, I mean, there's the obvious way of just do all your side quests, and eventually you'll unlock it. Sometimes they give you hints, like, oh, okay, it's this. It's much more useful if they give you hints about like, a character that is playable, like, oh, Nilo is busy, so you can't use her. It's like, oh, okay, well, then you just look for a quest that might have involved Nilo, right? I think it just prioritizes it. It just makes sure. I think it just makes it so that you can't. So whatever quest, like I think this is how it is, but I think what it is, it'll just be like it'll look for any quest. It'll basically prioritize that quest, so it'll just unassign. So whatever NPCs might be unavailable because of other quests, it'll be like, oh, well, you're focusing on this quest, so screw you, other quests. We're gonna reset you, maybe back to the beginning or something. I'm not sure because like I play this game all the time, so like I don't ever have that issue. I think there was like one time. Actually, well, I guess I did kind of have it once. I had Lynette's Hangout. I was doing one of Lynette's Hangout. It depends on what part you're in. Are you in the early parts? I think Archon Acts 1 and 2. Act 1 was kind of a little dry. But it definitely does pick up, and there are some really cool quests in... like Archon quests in Sumeru. But, I mean, it depends. Like, obviously, I don't mind it, because, like, I enjoy story, and so I can take it one bit at a time. Oh, okay. Yeah, the Act 1 is kind of a little slow, because obviously you're like, you've just gotten to Sumeru, so we have to explain what these people are, and kind of understand what's going on. And then Act 2 gets really trippy. And really interesting in that way. I can see that. Yeah, because they've lowered adventure ranks, like requirements for a lot of stuff. So like way back when, adventure ranks were pretty high. So like by the time you got to that adventure rank, you had some pretty beefy characters, just because of how long it would take to get to that adventure rank. So you just have had enough time to grind all sorts of shit. But now because they're like, okay, well, we have, 4 years of game that we have 4 years of game, and we have to make sure that like people aren't going to get stuck and forced to grind and not enjoy it, right? So they're like, okay, we'll lower some adventure ranks. Obviously, that means that you're going to be able to do some things earlier than original players were at a lower level, at a lower like build level. And then, of course, you could fuck yourself over, too. Like, the ideal, like, basically the way you would do it is you superpower one DPS to carry your team, and then you just kind of not worry too much about the levels and gear of your sub DPS or your healers and stuff. You might get their levels up, because their level, at least, will give them base stats and help it with damage mitigation. But way back when, it was like, yeah, you had, like when everyone was starting, you were just like, yeah, we'll have one super strong DPS. And like try to focus on like one team. So get a good team together, like get a good 4 members and just focus on them. So if you can get a good synergy. Like what 5 stars do you have?
シナリオに登場するすべてのキャラクターは多かれ少なかれ役に立つ情報を持ってるらしい。
Zhao is a tough one. I mean, Zhao and Jean are fine. So you get... Okay, so with the Zhao... actually, either one could be. So basically, if Zhao is going to be main DPS, you could have Jean or Kokomi. I think Kokomi would probably be a little better. to use simply because her skill, you can put it on the field. And so essentially, you put the Kokomi skill on the field, it'll heal Zhao, which is good because when he's in his burst mode, he'll constantly drain his health. And so all you got to do is just get enemies close together, and then just do your burst, leap up, plunge down, essentially where Kokomi's skill is. Because Kokomi's skill will apply Hydro to enemies nearby. Zhao will swirl when he lands, do extra damage, and get healed by Kokomi's skill. So Zhao Kokomi is a good pairing. You could also throw in a Kaya. So you could do Kaya's burst, rotating around Zhao while he's going up and down, so you'll be freezing them as well. You could also try Zhangling instead. So Zhao, Zhangling, Kokomi. So Zhangling's burst or her Guoba will be either doing melt or either be applying pyro to then vaporize or reverse vaporize with Kokomi, but then also applying pyro. And so you're applying pyro or hydro, and Zhao can swirl that when he's doing his shit. So like that's a kind of a basic comp. You can even have both. Ooh, he's a pretty good yeah, so Rio Thessaly is another good DPS. Nice. Oh yeah, he's really cool. I don't have him because he's a dude, but he's really cool. Rio Thessaly works really well with Kokomi because he's really good in a freeze team, because since he's a catalyst user, every single one of his attacks is going to apply cryo. So with Kokomi applying Hydro, that'll be helpful. So essentially with her skill on the field, you apply Hydro to everyone, and then Rio Thessaly can do his normal attacks and charge attacks to keep them frozen. So that's super useful. You could then throw you could throw Kaya in as well. And then you could do a Rio Thessaly, Kaya, Zhangling, and Kokomi. Because then you'll get, you'll be freezing, you'll also be melting, and then the resonance between Kaya and Rio Thessaly will increase the crit rate of anyone. It'll increase your crit rate when attacking. Actually, no, I think it just increases your crit rate. And then you get bonus crit rate if they're frozen or cryoed. Actually, no, wait, that's the Blizzard Strayer set. I think you just get bonus crit rate if you have 2 cryo. For Zhao, there's a Zhao's actually pretty simple. Like you just do attack percent, sands, animo damage goblet, and crit rate, crit damage hat. And you could give him the Viridis Inventor set to do resistance shreds. I think there's a better set now. When Wanderer came out, they had one for wind DPS, so you could get that set instead. It's just in the Sumeru Desert. So if you haven't gotten to the Sumeru Desert part, you might not be able to farm that yet. For Rio Thessaly, you could go Blizzard Strayer. That's a simple set. Just generally good. It's hard to say, because like since you've been gone for 2 years, I don't know what your world level is. 15k is kind of low, but it's also like if you're not level 90, then obviously you're not going to get hit level 90 numbers. And of course, if you don't have him built at all, like so, you could go Blizzard Strayer for him. I think he has a better set. I forget. I think there's a set in Fontaine, I think, that was pretty good for him. Oh, actually, 80 is pretty close. There's a set, I think it's like the Marchess Hunter one, or it's the other one. It's the same domain where you get Fiorina's artifact set. One of them's good for Fiorina, one of them's good for Rio Thessaly. And Fontaine, yeah. It's the Hydro country. If you're in Sumeru, it's the one after that. So essentially you have to do all the Sumeru Archon quests, and then you unlock Fontaine, because that's where Rio Thessaly is from. So not surprisingly, a lot of his stuff is going to be there. So that could hinder you a little bit, since it'll be, oh yeah. I mean, we're only like 2 months away from a new one. Natlan, the Country of Fire, is coming up. They've already done some showcases on how it's going to look. It looks pretty cool. And we get like little beasts that travel around. Yeah. I mean, it releases a country pretty much every year. So there's going to be big hype in like August. So there's the next patch, which should be a summer vacation-y patch. And then Natlan should be after that, I think. Either that or, yeah, I think there's one more patch before Natlan. What are we on? Are we on 4.7 or 4.8? Yeah, so Natlan's coming up pretty quick. But like, there's no rush really. Like the only kind of quote unquote rush is because you have a real Thessaly. I could understand why you'd want to rush to Fontaine to get his, better artifacts, or an artifact set that's more in tune with him, as well as his ascension materials. But like, it's not hard. I think you can just run there anyway. Like, you can just run into Fontaine. I think you can just run into Fontaine. Maybe. You might be able to. I'm actually not sure. It's like, obviously, I've kind of done this thing. I've done everything progressively. So it's like, I did Sumeru when it was current. I did all the Sumeru desert areas when they were current. So like when Fontaine popped up, I had already done the quest, so everything just unlocked. So I'm not sure if there is something that would stop you from just getting into Fontaine real quick. But, I mean, I would say for now, if you can't get his Ascension, if you can't get rid of Thessaly's Ascension materials, just kind of focus on Zhao. Since, he's a Leeway character, so all his stuff will be in Leeway. Yeah. There's the big green area that Sumeru starts with. And then Sumeru introduced 3 new desert areas with patches 3.1. 3.1 introduced the first desert area, and then 3.2 and 3 introduced the next 2. First one was super big, super cool. And now that they have underground maps, it's much easier to explore. Second one was an interesting story. I would say third one was a much cooler story. I really liked the third desert area story. Because it had some more Abyss stuff. Abyss-related things. Kinda. I mean, let's see. I mean, it's just like these other extra areas. It's kind of like how when Inazuma first unlocked, you only had that first big island and the Narukami Island and then like the 2 extra ones. But then they introduced the island where Kokomi was from, the Watsatsumi Island, and then they introduced the Seirei Island, and then they introduced that Ghost Island, and then they also introduced Enkonomiya underneath Watsatsumi Island. So like they've introduced areas fairly regularly. In fact, even while Fontaine was being released, they introduced a new Leeway area as well. The Chenyu Vale was introduced in like 4.4 or 5, something like that. I really liked Enkonomiya because of its music. Its music was really, really, like, it just sounded so peaceful and bleak, but... Yeah, there's Chenyu Vale that was introduced. Basically, if you remember where Ajdaha is, where you fight that weekly boss Ajdaha, essentially northwest of that, really close, like bordering Juyun Karst, is a new area. So they introduced that. So yeah, so it wasn't even with, and this was obviously when Fontaine was in existence. So even though Fontaine did have its main area, and they introduced, I think, 2 new Fontainine areas in subsequent patches, they also added a Leeway area as well. I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just like I focus mostly on the Archon quest for now. So the desert areas you don't really, I don't think, need to do necessarily. They're considered world quests. So the overarching plot, like the overarching quests for those 3 desert areas, are just considered world quests. So you can skip them, kind of. Like, you don't have to do them. I recommend doing everything. Like, it's a free game. I mean, you might as well get all that it has to offer. But But I would say if you're going to try to focus on anything, I would say focus on the main story. So try finishing up the Archon quests, and then when you finish up the Sumeru Archon quests, you can then move into Fontaine and do those real quick. So at the very least, you can kind of stay up to date with the Archon quests and be up to date with the story. And then, at your leisure, you can go in and be like, okay, cool, like I'm up to date on the Archon quest now, and I have some extra time. I might as well go, explore that first Sumeru Desert area, or explore Chenyu Vale, perhaps. Or explore the new Fontainian area. I guess, yeah, Fontaine introduced 3 new areas total. But I wouldn't say rush. I would not recommend rushing it. I would just say have fun, enjoy it. Oh yeah, Mihoyo keeps popping out new shit every 6 weeks, so it adds up. And not all of it is always a new area to explore. Like new areas to explore definitely take the most amount of time, not surprisingly, because it just takes time to wander around, do all the puzzles, find all the chests, and find all the quests and do those too. But there are some patches where it's purely just an event. Like this patch, the patch that just came out with Chlorinde and Seguin. They didn't introduce a new area for that. It's just purely oh yeah, it's humongous. And there's parts you can't even explore properly until you do some of the R&R quests, and some of the R&R quests are pretty beefy and long and not super intuitive. And you need to unlock R&R powers. Oh yeah, it was definitely, Mondstadt was a simple time. And Fontaine is what I did like about Sumeru is the whole you could use those little grappling points and zip line across the place. That was fun. I enjoyed that. So I did like that Sumeru introduced those things. Fontaine, by comparison, is flatter. So, but there is the cool thing about Fontaine is you can go underwater. Fontaine has underwater areas, which look beautiful. But generally, exploration in Fontaine is relatively straightforward. Sumeru was kind of complex. There's the forest. There's so many levels of elevation in the forest. An underground section. Yeah, you can dive underwater and swim underwater. It's actually really cool. Unfortunately, it's only in Fontaine, but you can't drown by swimming in Fontaine. You have a separate stamina gauge, and essentially, once you do the stamina gauge, so I can actually pop out, so now save my progress. Yeah, so this is Fontaine. Very pretty. Got some cool shit. And so as you see, when I get into the water, I don't have the yellow stamina gauge, I have this blue one. When that completely runs out, I just stop going fast. I regain it when I'm not swimming fast. It drains when I essentially use sprint. And then, there's the underwater. Which is very pretty. I think this is not even the prettiest part of it. I think around here it's just pretty cool. Well, it makes sense that you have to do things incrementally, and it would obviously make sense for well, and that's the thing, is it's only in Fontaine. So for all other areas, for swimming, still uses stamina and still can drown. It's only Fontaine where where it has this special swimming stamina. Only here. So because it kind of makes sense, right? It's the country of water, so because actually, let's go to here. This place is really pretty too. So yeah, they've done a lot of cool shit. So Fontaine is very pretty. But yeah, if we zoom out, This is the Chenyu Vale area. This is what was introduced during the Fontaine part. So as you can see, this is Ajdaha. Actually, I guess it's directly north. I thought it was more northeast. This is the Noblesse Oblige domain. So if you ever done farm that domain, it's super close to there. And just going into this area will start a quest, but then you can just teleport out. Obviously, there's the chasm, but if you've been Sumeru, you've probably done the chasm. Then yeah, there's the 2.0 version of Sumeru. This all is nice green shit, and then they introduce this whole section in Sumeru's 3.0. 3.0 is this. 3.1 was this. Then 3.2 is this desert of Hadra. It's a little smaller an area, and then the 3.3 or 3.4 area. They might have skipped a patch and had this one. This one is my favorite of the. Well, I don't know. I guess one was pretty cool. One was huge, very very cool looking. Well, I zoomed out as much as I possibly could. Look at that huge pyramid. But yeah, there is a lot of nothing here. It is a desert, as you can see. Looks very deserty. But this is only above ground. There is. If we zoom, there's the first underground cavities. More underground. There we go. There's also this shit underground. Oh yeah, I mean there were some things that help. There were the little whatchamacallits to grapple, so you can go faster a little bit. And that's the crazy thing, is that map didn't exist before. Like, this map, you didn't have. You just had to explore it randomly. You could only see the top part of the map. This is the only map you could see. So you could see your cursor moving around here, but you had no clue what any of it was like. And then they finally introduced, like, even during Fontaine, so like long after Sumeru, I think it was during Fontaine, they introduced an underground map. So yeah. So that was, and of course, like I chose like a part in the middle of the desert. Like there was also like these ruins and stuff, and that's kind of cool. And I think this is the domain that is which is good for Animo DPS. Oh shit! Whoops! I meant to just Well, I mean, it seems daunting at first, obviously, because... Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, actually, I guess you don't really charge attack. Wanderer does a lot of charge attacks. I mean, it's relatively easy. You just do one charge attack, and for 15 seconds you get super strong normal charge and plunging attack damage, and Zhao does a fuckload of plunging attack damage. So it's still pretty good. Obviously, a 2-piece Animo damage is also good. So like this is a good Zhao set. And I think this is the real Thessaly set. Scaramouche. Scaramouche is a Wanderer. Oh yeah. So this is the super good one for real Thessaly, because he does most of his damage from normal and charge attacks, and when he does his normal and charge attacks, his HP goes down, and so until it gets to 50%. Yeah. He came out. Here he is. He came out. I think after the second desert area came out. I won't reveal any more, but I would say you will see him while doing the Sumeru Archon quest. So, I mean, he's only the first Archon. He's only the first Harbinger. We have a second. Arlecchino, who's introduced in the Fontaine section, she is also a Harbinger. But yeah, so you'll. I think this might be like Act 4 or Act. I think you might see him earlier than Act 4 or 5 in Sumeru. But but definitely if you do the Sumeru Archon quest, you'll see him. Arlecchino, I mean, she's just one of the other 11. She plays a bigger part in Fontaine, so when you get to Fontaine, you'll see her and hear about her, interact with her. I won't really say much more beyond that, other than she is a Harbinger. And she's pretty cool. And she has a scythe. Although technically she's a polearm user. No, that's part of her. That's her idle animation. Yeah, her personal weapon is really just that spear. Is really just that spiky spear, but as part of her attack animations, it'll turn into a scythe. Yeah, so she's a really good fire DPS, but she's also pretty. She's a slightly higher skill ceiling because in battle, in combat, she can't be healed by your allies or anybody. So if you bring her in co-op, she can't be healed by any of your co-op allies or your. She can only heal herself, and that's done through her burst. So you do her skill to apply Bond of Life, which is a status that was introduced in Fontaine, and you consume Bond of Life to infuse your attacks with Pyro and do shitloads of damage. And so it's all about like getting huge amounts of Bond of Life, consuming it for shitloads of fire damage, and then when you do her burst, you'll consume all your remaining Bond of Life and heal based on the Bond of Life removed and your attack. So her only way to heal is by doing her burst, or out of combat. If you're out of combat, you can have your party members heal you, but obviously, like, you know, it's in combat that matters the most. But yeah, she is super cool. But yeah, that's kind of why I would recommend just doing. I mean, I recommend just doing the Archon quest just because it helps avoid spoilers. Because obviously, like, yeah, you just met Arlecchino. Oh my God, you saw her before. She was introduced in the story for you. What horrible hell is this? But yeah, like if you just focus on the Archon quests, you can do like the exploration and stuff later. Like there's always like these areas are going to be here forever. Like for the most part, like these desert areas have been here for a year. They're not going anywhere. This was the newest Fontaine region introduced. This is a region introduced before that. Like this will all be here. You can take your time. You can just kind of focus on the Archon quest, just so at least you're up to date with the story. And of course, like, you also have unlocked Fontaine, so now you could go and do the, like, Fontainian stuff. You can get the best artifact set for Rhea Thessaly, and fight whatever boss he needs to ascend. Probably not this one. Since he's ice, he probably needs this one. So, like, yeah, you can't ascend him until you get over here. So it's like, yeah. That's why it's kind of good to at least do the Archon quest. And the Fontaine Archon quest, holy shit, that's good. Like, I like Fontaine. I mean, not really. I like Sumeru. But, like, yeah, Act 1 of Sumeru was kind of took a little while. It was a little slow build. Act 2, I think, was the trippy one. Then Act 3 got really good. It was really interesting. And then Act 4 was like, holy shit, that's pretty cool. But, like, Fontaine had, like, so many good parts to it. Like, it was all really interesting and really cool. And then the music was really good. I mean, the music for all parts of the game are really good, but man, like some of the shit you do in Fontaine were pretty cool. So yeah, like I would just kind of recommend doing that. Finish up your Archon quest in Sumeru. And then, when you have a moment, then you could like explore other parts. Because like there's a lot of stuff in Sumeru to do. Because there's a lot of quests. And the R&R quests themselves are super, really a pain in the butt, but they are kind of a pain in the butt. In the sense that like they have you, there's a lot of them, and they have you trekking all like over to all sorts of places. And there's a few R&R ones that are like, oh, by the way, you need to get like 50 of these things. But you need to find 50 R&R that are spread throughout the entire map. Good luck. So it's like, so you can kind of think of them as like the oculi. So it's like a dendroculi, except you still also need the dendroculi. You still also need to get a few hundred dendroculi, as well as the R&R. And the R&R don't have a item that you can use to find them. So, but like finding all of them is not really for like, you get like bonus chests and stuff. It's like they give you a shitload of chests if you find them all. So it's like, yeah, it's good, obviously. It's like, who doesn't like free stuff? But like that's something you can take your time. And then of course you have all the character quests too. Like I like to, I mean I do everything. So like I have, oh yeah. I mean, I think that's a pretty good, it's a pretty good problem to have. Oh my god, my game has too much game for me. I would just say, yeah, just don't sweat it. Don't feel rushed. Like, that, it's kind of like, I mean, you can kind of think of this like an MMO. Like if you play an MMO that's been out for a while, if you want to play with your friends, you're just like, oh man, you feel compelled, you feel rushed, like, oh my god, I gotta catch up to my friends so I can get to the current content and stuff like that. And while I do recommend just focusing on the Archon quest, just to give you a goal, at least to catch up with the story, I wouldn't say rush it. Just take it minute by minute, bit by bit. Because, like, it seems like you have a shitload to do, and you obviously do, obviously, but like, Genshin only gets updated every 6 weeks. Yeah, the original, well, I mean, I wouldn't really say it's a trilogy. It's really a quintilogy, because Assassin's Creed 2 had those 3 parts. But yeah, I think those are my favorite parts of Assassin's Creed. 1, 2, Brotherhood, and 2, so Revolution, and then 3, Revelation. Is that the third Assassin's Creed 2? And then Assassin's Creed 3. I liked Desmond Miles' overarching story throughout all of that, as well as all the shit we did as an assassin. I am kind of disappointed that Assassin's Creed hasn't really tried to thread a narrative between its games, and they're just kind of treating each one as its own standalone thing. So I kind of wish there was like, oh hey, we're going to be this one assassin, and we're going to do something in the present. Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy them for what they are. Like I do enjoy going back to ancient Egypt. I do enjoy, seeing Victorian London. I do enjoy being a Viking. And then of course Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out in October. So now we're going to go into Japan and be a samurai. So yeah. So I mean, and they always do a really good job at the setting of the game. It's always really cool and enjoyable to bounce around and just like and enjoy the. Yeah, I mean that was the cool thing, was it talked about like what the Pieces of Eden were and what they all meant, and like why the Templar are after them, what they can do. The formation, I mean, obviously, like, we go back to the formation of the assassins. Well, not really a formation, but, like, we had the assassins. It tied the present world with the past. Whereas other ones, like, Black Flag kind of did, because you were at Abstergo testing out the pirate, and you would sometimes log out, and you would see Abstergo recovering Desmond's body, So it's like there were bits and pieces of like, oh cool, like there were some callbacks to the previous game. But then, from what I remember, then Unity came out, and Unity like was like, nah, you're playing, like it's Abstergo has released this game, and you can be a samurai, you can be an assassin in this game, hooray! So then it's kind of like diverged. It was like, nah, everything's treated separately. So I kind of wish they would just be like, nah, screw it, like let's go back. I think, yeah, I mean, I think people, because like it's a big ask to expect everyone to play every single one, and I think people have gotten kind of like bored of Assassin's Creed because like there is a lot of complaints about people saying just Ubisoft is just producing, very very similar games, and they have the same like open world like scripts. Like, okay, you have these points of interest, and here are these things, and like what you do in the open world is essentially like the same in every single game. Like the quests themselves are different, the environment is different. There is differences in story, but like a lot of the completionism content that you do is incredibly similar. But the only real difference being is the setting and what quests specifically you're doing. I don't know. Did I miss something? There's a red thing over here. And so I can see that, like, yeah, if you've been playing all the Assassin's Creed games, yeah, obviously you've seen it once before, happens again. Some people just get kind of bored of that, and they're just like, now I want something to be different. It's a tough balance, really, realistically, because it's like, well, sure, you could change, right? You could change and do things differently, but like people are playing it because it's Assassin's Creed, and so when they play an Assassin's Creed game, they're expecting, they're expecting certain things, and so if you don't give it to them, so like there's the risk of if you try to change the formula, then you'll scare away the old fans. But if you don't change the formula, you could still not really scare them away, but you could still turn them off. What? That didn't hit me. You could scare them off, and they don't want to play anymore because the game hasn't changed enough. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of a catch-22, right? Like if you change, you could scare off the people who like it. But if you don't change, you can scare off the people who like it. Oh, whoops, I missed this. So yeah, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But like, obviously, you should cater to the people who like it. These people like the game because it's like this. So if it is very similar, then fuck it, keep it similar. If the formula ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, it just. And then there are people who just dislike it because it's Ubisoft, and people are just like have a hate boner for Ubisoft. Like when Assassin's Creed Shadow was announced, you hear tons of people complaining, saying, "Oh my God, it's $100. Like the most expensive collector's edition is $130." And yeah, like in all honesty, the only real complaints I hear about Ubisoft is just their pricing. People don't like how they price their games, as well as how some of their games are very similar. Like the Assassin's Creed game. The open world aspects are just very similar game to game. And that's pretty much the big complaints, but people just like to dogpile and say, yeah, Ubisoft sucks because, they're just so expensive, blah, 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 blah. And like people are complaining Valhalla was just too big, and then Mirage comes out, and people say, well, that's too small. And it's just like, they're just people who just don't like it. They just dislike the company categorically. Yeah, it's crazy if you honestly think about it, because like we've had $60 games for like 20 years. Like, nothing in the world is the same price it was 20 years ago, right? And so a $10 increase is practically nothing. Yeah, people have heard this shit, and they're like, well, I don't like these games, so I'm just going to hate the company categorically. No matter what they do, I'm just going to hate it. So even when they do things well, people still shit on them for it. Like when they did the Prince of Persia game, the one of the more recent platformers, like, it was a really good game, but people were just like, it's Ubisoft, so it sucks. And like the only valid criticism was like the price was a little high. I think it was like $40 when it was like, well, it's just a platformer game, but like maybe it was $60, and it was like it should be more like 40 or because like the Metroidvania games are usually cheaper, so like people were kind of expecting that. So, and then like yeah, oh, and like Outlaws. When Star Wars Outlaws was announced, they're like, oh my god, it's $130 for the biggest, the collector's edition, which is like they were acting like it's a $130 game. It's like, well, no, the base version is $70, and like lots of other games have collector's editions that are over $100. Like, so it's crazy that people are criticizing them for that. The only criticism I would say is valid in that is that what I don't like what they've done with Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows is that you need to get the non-base version. So you either get the deluxe edition or the collector's edition to get a quest. There's a quest locked behind getting the deluxe edition or the collector's edition. I don't like that. Yeah, exactly. It's just like you don't have to buy it. Just buy the $70 version. It's a normal price. Yeah, that's the normal price. But I do admit that locking a quest, because like, this is a quest that's available day one, so it's not like it's DLC by any means. It's not like it's like it's like not like a season pass where it's like we're going to introduce some new content 6 months from now and then another 6 months from now. Like we have a schedule to release action packed DLCs and you can buy the season pass for that. It's like no, it's a day one quest, and I do agree that that's a little fucked up because it's like the content is there. You've produced it. Like it should be part of the game. Like because it feels more like they just removed it from the game so they could charge you for it, and I think that's a little scummy. Like I don't like that conceptually. Like that should be included in the game, and the deluxe edition should just include a bunch of in-game bonus items or like or art books. Like unless the scope of the quest is like ridiculously huge, where it's like, oh yeah, it's like if it ends up being like another area like Genshin makes, yeah, sure. If it's that scope, sure. But the problem, of course, is that because the game is not nearly out, like Assassin's Creed's months away, and they haven't really told us what's involved in the quest. Like it could be worth that additional money, but we don't know, and that's why it feels kind of shitty because you're just like, well, please tell us how big this quest is. Like, is the quest alone worth the price? And like they haven't really talked like, and they have like they're selling a season pass is part of the deluxe edition. It's like the deluxe edition like increases the price by like $25 or something, goes from like $70 to $95. So it's like, or maybe $70 to $85, and it's like you're getting the season pass, but like they haven't described like a road plan for what the season pass will include. So like they're selling this and they're just not giving enough information. So I'd say that part is bad. Like don't sell these things. As a general rule of thumb, like if they want to have these options, fine. If people want to pay for it, fine. I think they should be a little more clear about what specifically is included, or what if you're going to have a season pass, what's your road plan for it. But like I'll buy an Assassin's Creed game because I've liked the previous Assassin's Creed game, so I trust Ubisoft to make another good Assassin's Creed game. So I'm fine, spending the base amount of money for a pre-order. I'm fine spending, $130 for the collector's edition because I just want to, have everything. I'm fine doing that because I, kind of trust them as a company somewhat because, like, I've liked their previous games and that's fine. Like, but yeah, you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's $130 game." It's like, no, it's a $70 game. If you don't like the company, if you don't like the series, then don't buy the game for $70. Just wait for the game to go on sale later. But yeah, it's a lot of crazy people. Just kind of, yeah, because like it was the cinematic. They'd only give us the cinematic trailer, and then we're like, here's the cost. And like only recently did we actually see the gameplay for Assassin's Creed Shadow, or I think at the Games Award or the at one of the showcases they showed more gameplay for Outlaws. So it's like, yeah, they introduce a cinematic trailer and then have these things. It's like it's not. It's kind of manipulative, but then like all marketing is manipulative. So it's like it's whatever, right? It's like it's at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide whether or not you can afford it and if it's worth your money. So like, it's just for me, it's not a deal breaker, and it's just like, yeah, I kind of wish they would be a little more clear. But like I'm also like pre-ordering it right when the cinematic trailer releases and pre-ordering it right when the gameplay releases. Hell, pre-ordering it a week before the game comes out is like gives you the same amount of stuff. It's not like, well, actually, I guess the other complaint was too is that if you pre-order the deluxe edition and above for either one of those games, you get 3-day early access, which is like, okay, so I guess you have to pre-order before that point, before those 3 days. But then, as long as you pre-order before 3 days of the game's release, you don't get any bonuses from pre-ordering it in January versus pre-ordering it now. So it's like you can wait, but there are a lot of people that can't, and somehow like people not able to wait is it's a big whale. People being unable to wait is somehow Ubisoft's problem. Yeah, I mean, and it's not like super necessary too. It's like if just it's not like you have to play it day one. You could wait. So yeah, I do think it's a little unfair, and there's just a lot of people who just try to. Yeah, like there's no like it was like back in the day it made sense, right? Like when you had to get them from like a store, and it was like there was actual physical scarcity. But these days, when pretty much everything's digital, it's like there is no scarcity. And even if there was a physical collector's edition, for instance, like it's usually sold by the company itself. It's not sold like at a store. It's not like you go into Walmart and look, there's the physical collector's edition, or you go into a GameStop and they just happen to have some lying around. It's like, no, they don't even like have them at all. Maybe it's only if the company decides to give them any. Some do, like some you can actually buy in stores, but like these days where most companies like shipping is just so good, so easy that people just expect to have these things shipped to their door. So for the physical collector's editions, the companies just sell them directly or have them on the digital store. And if it's digital, then there's obviously no scarcity. You can just buy it whenever. Oh shit, there's another chest I missed. So it's like, yeah, it's really just kind of getting this. I mean, there definitely are people who just cannot wait. And that's kind of how they get you. Is there will be people who cannot wait. And so they'll sell. Oh shit, you didn't die. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, people have been going away from discs in general, and like, there's $100 price tag increase. I imagine. I mean, it makes sense. Like we've gone more digital for pretty much everything too. Like, more and more things have gone digital because, like, we have internet speeds have increased, storage space, like digital storage, like HDDs and SSD storage spaces have increased. So it's like it's super easy to have a lot of digital things like books. Like you could buy a physical book, sure, but like pretty much everyone has like a Kindle or some or on your phone you have a Kindle app or some sort of reading app where you can buy digital copies of something, and it's just more convenient because you have thousands of them in one tiny device, right? So it's so convenient that it's understandable why it happens. But the problem with games is, I mean, it happens for books, I guess, too, but books are so much smaller and easier to maintain and don't really change. There's not really a huge issue. But with video games, well, why are you sparkling? With video games, you have patches and stuff. You need to actually, you get a license, and so you don't really own things anymore, and there comes in the problem where it's like it doesn't feel like you own anything anymore, and then companies can, shut down just, a regular purple fish. Just Bob the purple fish. Did I get everything? I think I probably got everything. Let's see, I have to go. Oh, there we go. I'm sure. Okay, so I am at 100%, I guess. That's just what happens when you talk about Assassin's Creed. Just talk about the gaming industry as a whole. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of cool things to play. I think, yeah, you brought up something about the Assassin's Creed trilogy, but yeah, me too. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and log out. I typically just do these dailies and stuff while I'm on my treadmill walking, and I ended up walking for quite a bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and shower off and get something to eat. It was nice chatting with you. I would say if I had to give you one bit of advice would be don't rush it. Don't feel rushed. Like, nothing's going to go anywhere. It will still be here. Oh, thank you.
子供たちは今頃どう
And
し
if
て
you're in the and if you can befriend me if you want to, and if I'm in the game, you can chat with me. My friend ID. You can see it in the top right, or bottom right, or top left. So if you have any other questions, you can ask. But yeah, I would just say try to focus on the Archon quests. Then yeah, just focus on the Archon quest if you can. Like, do whatever you want, really. But like, you know, I would recommend focusing on the Archon quest just to at least catch up on the main story, and so you unlock all the areas. So if you ever get a new character, like if you got Arlecchino, like you need to be, you need to like have certain things unlocked to, you know, Ascender and all that shit. So it's like it's always kind of a good idea to be at least current with the main story. And then yeah, but don't feel rushed. Just do it at your own pace. Like the game's not going anywhere. We have, you know, Natlands are gonna come out. So like, and then there's the Snezhnaya after that, and then Conrea after that. So it's like we have a good 3 years on the docket for the game. So plenty of time to catch up, especially because they only release content like once every 6 weeks. So sure, it might feel like a lot, but like you could usually once they release a new area, you could, if you really were like burning yourself out, you could finish exploring all of it in a week. In like for a completely new area, just that area, you could spend a week. So it's like, yeah, you have essentially have 6 weeks to do something. It really only takes you like a week to do it. So yeah, it seems daunting because there's just so much to do, but like most of the stuff isn't like required. I would just say the Archon quest is just useful to have because it will unlock certain things, like certain weekly bosses. Although they have added a cool thing that even if you haven't unlocked the weekly boss, you can still go in and like for like domains and stuff, it'll say, "Oh, you can still do it." Now they warned you about like spoilers and stuff. Obviously, you can fight a boss earlier than you'd be fighting people. You're just like, "Why am I fighting this person?" Or why am I fighting this thing? So that might surprise you, but you can do things early. So even if you do get a current character, they do allow you to do weekly bosses you haven't unlocked as a free trial. I think even for domains too, maybe. Um, so it's not a huge rush because they have a lot of kind of catch up mechanisms in place for people who just aren't in the current doing the current thing. Ways for them to still be able to level their characters and send them and all
私に
that
報
shit.
告か
Anyway, it was nice chatting with you. I'm going to go ahead and log out for now. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.